Hello, guys and girls. Welcome to today's session. My name is Belinda. I'm so glad and happy that you guys have joined me here today. I will be presenting today's session on cellular respiration. I'm very happy that you guys joined me today. Okay, so I'm just going to give about 5 minutes to allow for everyone to join the session. Okay, so in the meantime, just get yourself comfortable. Get your pen, your paper, or whatever it is that you need close by. Okay, please note that we are experiencing technical issues. So just to keep the connection and to make sure that you can hear me clearly, we might need to switch off my webcam. So this means you won't be able to see my pretty face. Thank you, I know. Anyways, that's just to make sure that you guys can hear me. All right, so we might need to switch off my webcam. Yeah, we will translate the handouts to Afrikaans and email them to you. Okay, so we will do that for you. But for today's lesson, in the meantime, please just go through it with me, and then maybe use it hand in hand with your textbook while you wait for the translated handout. Okay, so but we will make it available to you. All right, so but for the sake of this session, please just use this handout. Okay, yeah. Okay, so 3 more minutes and we're gonna start. Just waiting for everyone to join. Two more minutes. Okay. So while we wait, please make sure your audio is on and your speaker is turned up. Please also note that you will be muted when joining the session. Okay, so this means I cannot hear you. So if you want to send any communication, please do so using the question box. Okay, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Right? Download this presentation on the handout section. Okay, you can download the PDF version of this on the handout section for later use. Okay, please remember to send us questions as we go. Right, so if maybe you want me to repeat something after the presentation, or you would like clarity on something, please type it on the question box as we go. So this means I will not be unmuting people to hear questions. I will only be using the question box to see your questions. Okay, so please use that. Right? I'm the only one who sees the questions, so don't worry about people seeing your questions. I'm the only one who is able to see your questions. Okay. Right, 1 more minute and we will start. Okay, remember, this recording will be available on YouTube if you would like to check it out again. Maybe when you're preparing for your exams, your final examinations or whatever, it will be available on YouTube. Okay, so you can access it there. Okay. Right, so we are about to start. Okay, so for those of you who are joining us for the first time today, my name is Belinda Malachi, and I will be presenting the life science sessions during this lockdown. Okay, so today we will be looking at cellular respiration. Okay, so just to get back to the previous topics this term, we started off by learning photosynthesis. So we saw how plants use energy from the sun to create food for themselves. Okay, and then when we did human nutrition, we saw that because human cannot produce sugars by themselves, okay, they cannot produce food for themselves. Okay, I said sugars. I'm saying this because we will be looking at a type of sugar in this lesson. But because we cannot produce our own food, we rely on other organisms for nutrients. Okay, so we rely on plants to get carbohydrates, which will further be digested into simple sugars that the blood can absorb. Okay, so now we will be looking at one of the uses of the nutrients that we consumed, okay, and that was absorbed by our cells. So we will be looking at one of the functions of those nutrients, how they are used by our cells, okay, and why they are used by our cells. Okay, so just to recap, plants manufacture their own food by a process called photosynthesis. So during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water, using energy from the sun, manufactures glucose, and oxygen is released as a byproduct. Okay, so when humans digest that plant that has glucose, okay, they will also have access to it. So their blood or their cells will have access to it. Okay, so today we will be looking at how the glucose is used to create energy, okay, by a process known as cellular respiration. Okay, so cells require energy to do work. Okay, remember what energy is for those of you who do physical sciences. Energy is the ability to do work. So this means without energy, you cannot do work. Okay, so cells need to work as well, right? For example, our muscle cells work in helping us move. Okay, so cells require energy to do work, right? So cellular respiration is the process of creating energy, ATP, which looks something like this. Okay, ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. All right, so cells produce this energy by a process known as cellular respiration. Okay, so it is the process of creating energy, ATP, using sugars and oxygen delivered to your cells by your blood. Okay, so the oxygen and the sugars are delivered to our cells by our blood. We've seen how this process occurs last week when we were doing digestion. Okay, and we were doing carbohydrates, we were doing starch in particular, and one of those products of starch was glucose. Okay, the products that we wanted that could be absorbed by our blood is glucose. Okay, so this is the equation for cellular respiration. Glucose together with oxygen, okay, about 6 molecules of oxygen form about 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and about 6 molecules of water, H2O. and about 38 ATPs. All right, so let's look at this again. This is the equation. This is the word equation of cellular respiration, and this is the chemical equation of cellular respiration. So glucose plus water form carbon dioxide. Glucose plus oxygen, sorry. Glucose plus oxygen form carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. All right, this is the reverse for photosynthesis. With photosynthesis, glucose and oxygen are our products, and these are our reactants. Carbon dioxide, water, and energy form glucose and oxygen. That's with photosynthesis. But with cellular respiration, it is the reverse of that. Glucose plus oxygen form carbon dioxide plus water and ATP. Okay, so this is the reverse of photosynthesis, right? And it is a process whereby energy is created using sugars and oxygen in our cells. All right, so if you've got questions, guys, please remember to send them. Please remember to send them using the question box. Okay. Okay, so cellular respiration is the reverse of photosynthesis, and you can expect this as one of your exam questions. Okay, you can expect this, the difference between cellular respiration and photosynthesis, as one of your exam questions. Okay, or how they are not different, but how they are related to one another. Okay, so we can distinguish between two types of cellular respiration. Okay, we have aerobic respiration, which uses oxygen. So during aerobic respiration, oxygen is present, and we have anaerobic respiration where oxygen is absent. Okay, so these are the two types of cellular respiration that we're going to be looking at. Okay, aerobic, oxygen present, anaerobic, oxygen absent. Right. Where does this take place? Okay, so we know that photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast of the cell. Okay, that's why humans cannot produce their own food, because we do not have chloroplast, which is necessary for photosynthesis. Okay, cellular respiration, however, takes place in the mitochondria of the cell, those structures over there, the mitochondria of the cell. Now, each cell in your body has mitochondria. Okay, so singular is mitochondrion, many mitochondria. Okay, so each cell in your body has mitochondria. And if you remember in grade 10, you've seen that both animal and plant cells have mitochondria. So this means cellular respiration is a process that takes place in both plants and animals. All right, okay, but it's more or less the same function, but we will see where it starts to differ between animals and plants. Okay, now all the cells in your body have mitochondria, but some parts of your body have more mitochondria than other parts of your body. So the parts that need a lot of energy, like your muscles, will have a lot of this mitochondria. Okay, because a lot of energy is needed. Okay, so this is the magnified structure of the mitochondria. Okay, it has two membranes, and an outer membrane and an inner membrane. Okay, so there is our outer membrane lined in red. Okay, and then our inner membrane lined in yellow. Okay, from this, inside the mitochondrion, we have a matrix. Okay, and then we have cristae, which are those folds that you find in the mitochondrion. Okay, and then we have ribosomes, those dots. Okay, remember, next year you will learn what the process of, what is the function of the ribosome inside a cell. Okay, you will learn that next year when you do protein synthesis. All right, so the process of cellular respiration takes part in the cytoplasm and the mitochondria. So it takes place partially in the cytoplasm and then it goes on to finish in the mitochondria. All right, if you've got questions, please remember to send them. Okay. Please remember to send them. Okay. So we said there's two types of cellular respiration, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration is respiration that happens in the presence of oxygen. So oxygen is needed for aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration takes place in two stages. Okay, stage one is known as glycolysis. Okay, and stage one happens in the absence of oxygen. Okay, but this is not complete yet. So just because I said glycolysis happens in the absence of oxygen doesn't make this anaerobic. Okay, this is not the end of the aerobic respiration. This is just stage one. So when it starts off, it doesn't necessarily need oxygen, but as the process carries on, oxygen is going to be necessary for this process to be complete. So stage one is known as glycolysis. Okay, glyco means sugar or glucose, and lysis means to split something. Okay, so glycolysis is the process whereby glucose is split. Okay, it is broken down into what we call pyruvic acid. Right, so glycolysis takes place in the cell cytoplasm. Let's go back to the cell. It will take place in here. Glycolysis takes place in the cell cytoplasm, okay, and not in the mitochondrion yet. Okay, so during glycolysis, glucose is broken down into pyruvic acid. Okay, and as this is done, a small amount of ATP is released. About 2 molecules of ATP is released. Okay, so if we can go back to our first slide, we've seen that after this process, about 38 molecules of ATP form. Okay, so now during glycolysis, only a small part, only about 2 molecules of the 38 ATP molecules will form. Okay, the rest of the ATP will form in the next stage. So only a small amount will be released during glycolysis. Okay, let's see what happens to this pyruvic acid next. Okay, the next stage of aerobic respiration is known as Krebs cycle. Okay, so during this stage, the pyruvic acid that was produced in glycolysis is transported to the mitochondria. Okay, it is shipped to the mitochondria. Okay, where it is broken down in the presence of oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water. Okay, let me repeat that. During Krebs cycle, pyruvic acid is transported to the mitochondria. So this means Krebs cycle takes place inside the mitochondria. Okay, there it is broken down in the presence of oxygen, hence why we call it aerobic respiration, because it needs oxygen in order for the process to complete. It produces carbon dioxide and water. Okay, and energy. About 36 molecules of ATP are released during Krebs cycle. So this 36 together with our 2 molecules that we produce during glycolysis, will form our 38 ATPs. Okay, so this will finish the process. Okay, and then we have carbon dioxide and water. This can be exhaled. Okay, this can be exhaled during the breathing process. This can go out of your body in the form of sweat. All right. Okay. If you've got any questions, or if you'd like me to repeat this, please send through your questions. Okay. By show of hands, does everyone understand aerobic respiration? So before I carry on, please raise your hands if you understand the 2 stages of aerobic respiration. Okay, if you understood the 2 stages of aerobic respiration, please raise your hands. Okay. Okay, not all the hands are up, so this means I'm gonna go back and just do it again. Okay, not all the hands are up, so I'm just going to go back and do it again. Okay, if you understand, please put your hand up. Okay, otherwise, not everyone's hands are up. I don't see questions. As yet, but I'll just go back and do this, repeat this process again, just so that I'm sure that everyone understands. Okay, so let's just go back. So aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen, and it takes place in two stages. In two stages. Okay, stage 1 is known as glycolysis. Okay, and glycolysis means glucose splitting. So glyco means glucose, lysis means splitting. Glycolysis takes place in the cell cytoplasm. Okay, during glycolysis, glucose is broken down into pyruvic acid, and as that is done, about 2 molecules of ATP will be released. Okay, so about 2 molecules of ATP will be released during glycolysis. Remember, glycolysis does not need oxygen. Okay, but oxygen will be needed to complete the process of aerobic respiration in the next stage. Okay, stage 2 is known as the Krebs cycle, and here oxygen is needed. Okay, so here pyruvic acid is transported to the mitochondria, and then the pyruvic acid will be broken down into carbon dioxide and water. And as that is done, about 36 ATP molecules will be released. All right. Okay, so I hope that has clarified it. Okay, so this is just a structure that shows what happens. So we have glucose, okay, in the cytoplasm. Remember, you have ingested bread. It was broken down. The starch in the bread was broken down into glucose. It was absorbed into the bloodstream and taken into the cells. Okay, remember with the digestive system that we did last week. It was taken into the cells. From there, in the cell cytoplasm, glycolysis will occur and a bit of ATP will be released. And then the pyruvic acid will be transported inside the mitochondrion. This step is known as the Krebs cycle, during which carbon dioxide and water will be formed and large amounts of ATP will be released. Okay, so this is just an overview of aerobic respiration. Right. So, anaerobic respiration. Okay, so this usually takes place when you have a low oxygen supply. Say, for example, you are exercising, running, or whatever, doing some form of exercise. Okay, so this means you have a low oxygen supply. So this normally takes place when you have a low oxygen supply. So during exercise, a vigorous exercise, your muscles cells swap to anaerobic respiration. So firstly, they would have tried to perform aerobic respiration, and then when there is a low supply of oxygen, they will swap to anaerobic respiration. Okay, so in aerobic respiration, glycolysis still takes place. Remember, glycolysis does not need oxygen. So glycolysis will still take place in the cell cytoplasm. So glucose will still be broken down into pyruvic acid. Okay, but then because there is a low supply of oxygen, the Krebs cycle will not be able to occur. Remember, in the Krebs cycle, we need oxygen. So this means after glycolysis takes place and there is a low oxygen supply, then Krebs cycle will not take place during anaerobic respiration. Okay, what will happen to the pyruvic acid then? What's going to happen to the pyruvic acid? Okay, what happens depends on whether respiration is occurring in animals or in plants. Okay, so this is where the difference will occur. In animals, the pyruvic acid will be converted to lactic acid. So glycolysis will take place to produce pyruvic acid, and only a small amount of energy will be released. Okay? But then what's going to happen to the pyruvic acid? It will be converted to lactic acid. Okay? This leads to muscle pain. I don't know if you guys have felt after exercising, okay, especially if you're not an active person like me, okay, what happens is you're gonna feel some strain, some muscle pain after exercising. Okay, so this happens because pyruvic acid is converted to lactic acid. Okay, so this leads to muscle pain and fatigue. Okay, and then in plants, after glycolysis has occurred, only a small amount of energy will be released, but then carbon dioxide is released and alcohol will be produced. So let's look at the difference. In animals, pyruvic acid is converted to lactic acid. In plants, pyruvic acid is converted to alcohol. This is known as alcohol fermentation. Okay, so I don't know if you have looked at fermentation before, how alcohol is produced. So alcohol is produced by this process, by anaerobic respiration, right? The process of converting pyruvic acid to lactic acid is known as lactic acid fermentation. Okay, so please just take note of that. It can be asked in your exam, section A of your exam. I'm just going to write it down here. You must also note it down. So this is known as lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid. This is not how my handwriting is. I'm joking. That's how my handwriting is in real life. Okay, fermentation. Okay, this is lactic acid fermentation is the process whereby pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid. And then this is alcohol fermentation, the process whereby pyruvic acid is converted into alcohol. Okay. Okay. Fermentation, spelled exactly like that also. So, guys, now I have a question for you. So I want you to participate a little. Do you know industries where anaerobic respiration is used, where alcohol fermentation is used to produce products? If you know of any, can you please type them in the question box? Okay, the uses of anaerobic respiration. Okay, one of them is producing beer. Okay, so don't mention that. What other things are produced using anaerobic respiration? Okay, can you write them in the question box for me, please, if you know them? Okay. Okay, keep the answers coming. Okay, if you know. Right. So thank you for your answers. For those of you who have answered, thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so this is the importance of anaerobic respiration. Without it, we wouldn't have yeast. We wouldn't have bread. Okay. Anaerobic respiration is used in the process of baking bread. Okay, so when we put the yeast and sugar and a little bit of water, alcohol fermentation takes place. Remember, when you make dough, for those of you who bake, when you make dough, you close the bowl that you use to make bread, right? So closing that bowl that you use for your dough prevents oxygen from coming in, hence why we call it anaerobic respiration. Okay, so because we do not have oxygen that's coming into our bowel. Okay, also making cheese, wine, and beer. Okay, so thank you for those answers. So these are industries that use anaerobic respiration, okay, which is very important for our economy as well, right? So prescribed practical investigations that you need to, that can be asked are determining whether oxygen is used in cellular respiration, or determining whether carbon dioxide is produced during cellular respiration. Okay, so these are some of the experiments that you can expect during your life science tasks. Okay, if it wasn't given to you already. Okay, but they might give it, they might not give it. Okay, because there's other topics as well. I know last time you were given a task on immunity. Okay, so you might be given this experiment to do this term. Okay, or you can be given one of the experiments in photosynthesis, right? So if you have questions, can you please type them now on the question box. If you've got questions. I'm just going to go through the question box now to see all the questions that were asked. If you did not get to ask your questions during the session, please send an email to academics@impact.co.za, and we will get back to you. Someone asked if sunlight is present or needed during cellular respiration. No, sunlight is not a requirement. It's not a requirement during cellular respiration. Okay. Then someone asked, does ATP produce after carbon dioxide and water? As carbon dioxide is released and water is released, energy will be released during that process as well. Okay, so those were the only two questions I got. Okay, let me just quickly go back to the requirements of cellular respiration. Okay, for cellular respiration to occur, we need glucose and oxygen. Okay, those are the two requirements necessary. Okay, this is for aerobic respiration. For anaerobic respiration, we just need glucose. So sunlight is not a requirement. Okay, carbon dioxide, water, and energy are the products. The requirements is just glucose and oxygen. All right. Okay, so this together with the, okay, somebody asked another question. Does glucose come from food? Yes, from the food that you ingest. Glucose comes from food that we ingest. Okay, not necessarily just sugar, but there's a lot of other products that have glucose in them. This topic, cellular respiration. Okay, let me start from the beginning. Photosynthesis, human nutrition, that is the digestive system, and cellular respiration are the topics, all the topics for term 2. Okay, so this finalizes your term 2 work. Please just make sure with your curriculum provider, but otherwise, according to the CAPS, these are all the topics that you needed to do for term 2. Okay, so this together with your term 1 work is all you need for your June examinations if you are going to write any June examinations this year. Okay, so you can now start going back to the YouTube videos and listening to them again, or start doing practice papers. Okay, so because this concludes all the work you need for term 2, so you can start downloading past papers. Start downloading past papers and practice. Okay, remember, you study first, create yourself mind maps, and then attempt question papers. If you get some answers wrong, go back, study the whole section again, and then practice some more. Okay, don't study like parrots. When you study, you must study with understanding. Try to think of practical examples of the things that you are studying. Okay, so if we are talking of ingestion, imagine yourself ingesting that piece of the chocolate that you are eating. Okay, so try and imagine what your body is doing, what the processes are in your body. Okay, how does the atmosphere maintain the level of carbon dioxide? Okay, so to maintain the level of carbon dioxide is used mainly during photosynthesis. So the plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through the stomata, and then they use it to create sugars. Okay, so this means if we want to get rid of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, we will need to plant lots of trees, green trees, sorry about the green trees that will use it for good. Where is water from carbon dioxide produced in your body? Remember the water and the carbon dioxide is produced in Krebs cycle in the mitochondrion of your cells. Okay, so that is where it is produced. Okay, you can find last week's notes on my impact. Okay, that's where they've been uploaded on my impact or the online learning platform. You can find them there. And also last session's YouTube videos are on YouTube, so you can access them there. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our session. It was very nice to have you guys. Good luck with your examinations. Remember, do past papers. It really helps. Okay, so you can get used to how questions are asked in the examination. Right. Good luck with everything. Stay safe. Yeah, and I'll see you next time. Bye.